So for our healthcare system, a nice focus might be helping people to find those ways to connect to their joy.
Well, certainly it is, and that's why the college basketball championship was more helpful than all of the health care. That's why getting out and putting yourself in the lake or the ocean or the swimming pool and moving your body is more helpful than all of the books that you will study. That's why focusing in ways or upon subjects that bring you joy. But the thing that matters most in this conversation is you are where you are. Yeah. Write that down. I am where I am, and where I am is where I am, and what my point of attraction is. But tomorrow when you wake up, it's different for a minute. Let it be. Go to sleep and let your energy clear and let your momentum subside. And then when you wake up in the morning, make a decision that you're going to focus upon things that feel good, and then do it. And if you feel yourself drifting off onto the rumble strip, do something about it. And then the next morning do the same, and the next morning do the same, and the next morning do the same, until you have, with far less effort than you've learned a computer program, you have cleared yourself of the resistance, which is the only thing that's holding you back or away from the things that you want. Humans take life so seriously because you're doing it the hard way. You offer so much action to compensate for energy that you have not allowed to flow naturally, you see. And when you learn to let your cork float, when you learn to lighten up, when you don't make big deals out of things that just don't require it, when you're not trying to justify your truth or your belief by arm wrestling with everyone else who thinks differently, when you just live and let live and enjoy the tapestry of your contrast and appreciate the value that is all around, and be less partisan on every subject. Be less determined that you're right and that makes someone else wrong. If you could make everybody right, your resistance would all go away. If you could be nicer to yourselves than everyone else, you wouldn't have any resistance. But you also wouldn't carve out the improved life experience that you've come here to carve out. So it's that balance that you're seeking. How can I decipher life? How can I choose what is an improvement without getting into resistance? And we say, by choosing what you're saying yes to, not by being fixated on what you say no to. That really is the answer, because you live in a universe that is attraction-based. This is an inclusion-based universe, which means what you focus upon, you activate in your vibration, which means it becomes your point of attraction. So when you see something that you want and you say yes to, yes, 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 you're saying yes to something wanted. But when you look at something you don't want and you say no to it, you're saying yes to something you don't want, because there's no such thing as no. There's only yes. There's only yes, and your attention is what says yes. And so there's a war against drugs, and a war against cancer, and a war against teenage pregnancy, and a war against terrorism, and a war against, and a war against, a war against, a war against, and every one of them getting bigger, because attention to it makes it your experience too. You see. So fortunately, you have so much wonderful leeway in your experience. You are so worthy, and you are so blessed, and you're in such good places. There is such a good platform that you stand on, and you have the latitude and leeway to just choose better feeling thoughts on all subjects. It's not big subjects that are taking you down. It's the little nitpicking things that you're using to push against that create these patterns of momentum. So first it's just drifting a little in your lane, and then it's a rumble strip, always on the rumble strip. So annoying to be on the rumble strip. I was going to have a nice drive, but ever drive with somebody like that? It's just annoying. Can't just get in the lane, it's just annoying. Just takes the edge off. Such a beautiful day. And then off in the grass. Oh, so hard to control your car in the grass. So much better over there in the pavement. But oh well, I'm in the grass. I'm over here in the weeds, and it's just where I am. And so I'm just learning to deal with it. It would be so much better if I could get back on that paving. But oh well, I'm over here in the weeds. And we say, you put up with things that you shouldn't ought to be putting up with. You intended to come and to live a joyous life experience, and yet you put up with the results of your own negative thoughts. You've been willing to put up with them because you accept it as reality, and you want to be fair-minded, objective people, the way the pros and the cons and the pluses and the minuses, and you don't want to be one of those airy-fairy people that's just so bright and shiny that you just can hardly stand them. You want to be steeped in reality more. You want to be real in this world. And we say, well, just hold your cork under if you like drowning down there, or let go of it and get up there on the surface. But it's so much easier than you are allowing it to be, because you've conditioned yourself to have to argue the details, when what you're really wanting to do is to tap into the energy that gives you clarity about all details. And you know that because you have those experiences often. Aren't there subjects that are light and easy for you, and aren't there heavier subjects? Aren't there subjects that are of greater risk, and don't you sort of want to avoid them? No, not me. I'm going to dig in, I'm going to wrestle at the ground, and I'm going to kill it. I'm going to win this argument. I'm going to make them understand. And no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not be taking life seriously as you are. We would not be trying to figure out everything that everybody is doing about everything. We would take our life as it comes. And when someone comes and says something to us that is upsetting to us, then we would decide as best we could in that moment, how am I going to react to this? Because I have an option right here and now. I can make this worse, or I can make this better for myself. I can pick a fight, or I can let it go. I've got this option right here and now. Well, if the momentum is going really strong, you might not feel like you have any option other than to pick up the fight, to defend yourself against this. But you do always have an option. You always do have an option. But it might take a good night's sleep, or a time of meditation, or a lobotomy. It might take some serious distraction from it, but you can break the momentum, and that's really what we're encouraging you to do. Look for opportunities to break momentum of things that do not feel good, so that you get the trend of your momentum going toward your alignment. Because as the trend of your momentum moves more and more toward your alignment, you have more clarity, you have more good timing, you have more rendezvous with more things that feel good. So the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. So this is how it works. So you feel better, and good results happen. As good results happen, then you observe the good results, which causes more good feeling, which causes more good results. But there's a little trap in that, because it sounds to you like you are reacting to the good results. And that's why most people are living. Most people are responding to the condition that they are observing. So if it's a good condition, they have a happy response. But if it's a bad condition, they have an unhappy response. And they seem to not have any control over their response. And that's what we mean by getting out ahead of it, you see. So it would be nice if this were the first day of your physical experience, but that you were clear-minded and had vocabulary so that we could have this conversation, but you didn't have any resistance, because then we could just tell you like it really is. You are really, really in a good place, and you are magnificently creative beings, and you are worthy beyond our ability to describe to you, and the whole world is out there to stimulate you into your desires of what you want. Go forth and have it all. Have as much of it as you want. It's yours to take, you see. That really is the way you felt coming in, and it's the way we wish for you to feel today. But instead of feeling that way, instead you have all of the manifestations that are surrounding you and your attention upon them that's got your energy all jacked up in different ways. So you've got resistance that you don't even know you've got. You're carrying problems around that you don't mean to carry around. And you have prejudices and worries and concerns about things that really are not of your concern, that you don't even need to deal with, because it's not part of who you are. And then some of you hear us speak like this, and you say, Abraham, do you really want me to just put my head in the sand and just ignore the things that I do not want? And we say, pretty much. That is what we are encouraging. Because your attention to it is only making more of what you do not want, and only holding you from what you do not want, and then causing the rumble strips, and then off, and then off, and then off, until you end up in some situation that now you are seeking some really big remedy for, but the big remedy can't come because you haven't allowed the little remedies first. In other words, you got to get used to allowing your cork to float. And as you allow your cork to float, about this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that, then you find yourself lighthearted about things. And that's who you are. That's what you came for. You didn't come to save a world. It isn't broken. It doesn't need to be saved. You didn't come to make your place as the savior of all things. That's not what it's about. You came because you were a creative genius and you knew that this would be a wonderful time with lots of variety in the vortex for you to choose and for you to personally direct the energy that creates worlds toward the subjects of your desire. And that is where your worthiness comes from. Do you realize that that's when you get your feeling of empowerment? Is when you've been sifting and sorting and deciding, and then you've lined up with it, and then you get to be the witness to the universe and all the universal forces working on your behalf to orchestrate things that please you. Can you imagine any greater sense of worthiness? Is depriving yourself of the things that you want, does that make you feel worthy? Or does that make you feel like a victim? In other words, you got to get this turned around where you allow yourself to be the receiver of the idea. I got an idea. I know I can't hang on to it very long because I'm negative most of the time, but I got an idea. I got an idea, and I believe it will come back. And then it does, and then it does, and then it does, and you begin to control your relationship with that idea until that idea begins to show itself to you in all kinds of ways. But you cannot ask everybody to understand your idea, to even recognize your idea, to understand it, or to agree with it, because that's where you begin then introducing all kinds of resistance to it. Wondering what everybody else thinks about your idea keeps you from being in alignment with your idea. And then it disempowers you, and then you come to all kinds of bogus conclusions about yourself, about unworthiness, or I must have been bad in a past life, or it's my mother's fault, or it's the government's fault, or it's their fault, or their fault, or their fault. Once you get a handle on this, once you recognize that this is an energy dynamic world and that you can feel the energy moving through you, it's intoxicating. To notice the manifestations that show you what your vibrational trend is. Everyone wants to poll what the trend is. Everyone wants to tweet what the trend is, or be part of the trend with their tweets. In other words, what's the trend? What's the trend? The only trend that we would wonder about if we were standing in your physical shoes is, what's the trend of my emotion? What's my mood? What's my attitude? How do I feel? What's my trend? Because you can watch. You can have something going on, something that might go that way or might go this way, might go the way you want it to go or might turn against you. And you can notice that as you begin to feel doubt and worry, the details of your life begin to turn that way. Or if you feel optimistic and happy, the details of your life turn that way. Notice it. It is absolute. There's not one exception to that. And if you're not noticing it, it's because you've not yet accepted that you are a vibrational trender and that there's momentum in the vibration that you offer. Show yourself how interested in your success and value and worthiness your source is. Get crosswise of that. Be mad at yourself about something. Feel regret. Stand in you now and say, back there 5 years ago or 10 years ago or yesterday, I should have done something different. And feel how regret settles in your belly. Feel how disempowering it is, because your inner being is never going there, you see. And so just watch how you're trending and get out ahead of it if you can.
I really love that, Abraham, because what I hear you saying is that it is this alignment to source, which is really the alignment to joy and love and all of that, and that health and healing is just a consequence of that.
Everything is a consequence of that. Everything is a consequence of your relationship with your inner being. You see, because you are so good, when you focus upon yourself as bad, you tear yourselves apart. Because you are so powerful, when you feel victim or weak, you tear yourself apart. Because you are so happy, when you look at things that are sad, you tear yourself apart. You're vibrational beings, and you really owe it to yourself to selfishly care about how you feel. Sometimes people say, well, Abraham, you teach selfishness. And we say, we do. We do. Because if you're not selfish enough to find alignment, you're not of any value to anyone else. If you don't tune into that stream, you don't have anything to offer anyone, you see.
Yeah.
Really good.
Finding the light.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.